Hey man, greetings everybody. This is Wesley Pepper. This is Welcome to the Architecture Podcast. This is episode 156. And before I get into my guests today, remember I'm nominated for the APVA Podcast Award. And big up to the APVA for looking out for that. We have an event coming up on the 4th of September. It's called Behind the Mic. It'll be hosted on Twitter. On Twitter, I always said Zoom. It's going to be hosted on Twitter, but I'll be blogging about that on my various social media platforms closer to the day. It's like in a week's time. So look forward to that. And who knows? And once again, big up to the APVA for nominating this platform. Just one more thing. Welcome to my new returning listeners. I appreciate every single one of you. So welcome. Today, guys, we are talking everything to do with theater. We're talking about the Wits Theater Complex, which is going to be really cool. We're talking to the consulting director, Malcolm Purkey, on that, and they've just reopened, and they got some dope ass productions, and we're talking about all of that and what's going down at Wits. So let's get straight into it. Malcolm, firstly, good morning, my brother, and welcome.
And thank you very much for hosting this event and this podcast. And I wish you well. And here's hoping for big awards.
Yeah, thank you, man. You know that artists are at mercy of the recognition factor. So recognition is important, however way you get
Absolutely. We understand.
Talking about recognition, the Wits Theater is got a strong reputation. I know I attended a bunch of public publications, a bunch of productions there in the early 2000s with my brother, with Jeff, and those boys were doing some cool stuff back then. But apparently you guys were closed down for a little while and reopened. So can you just take us from the beginning and just tell us a little bit about, first of all, firstly, just intersect why was the theater closed? And now with the reopening, just explain to us the processes and what's happening. And then we'll get into the productions.
Well, let me start by saying it never was fully closed. What actually happened, for reasons not entirely understood, is that the school, the division called Theatre and Performance, lost learning and rehearsal venues in the Wits School of Arts building. So some years ago now, I believe, they moved into the Wits Theatre, the downstairs theatre, the amphitheatre, the nunnery, and there's even a beautiful new space called the mezzanine. And that meant that productions, whether student productions or public productions or visitors, weren't able to function in the way that they used to function. And so even now, as I am newly appointed to animate the venue, restore its connection to the world, we are using the foyer, for example. Yeah. So we've done a poetry and performance evening. Tonight, we've got a jazz evening called Lab of Learning, curated by Carlo Mombelli. It's absolutely fantastic in the foyer, and it's free. And then on Friday night, we've got another poetry and performance evening, also from about 5:30 to 8. And these are a way of saying to the student body, to the academics and staff, that we are back on the agenda. And we will do a musical. We've got our first week-long musical called The Antidote, created by Simeme Zulu. I know him as Cody, and it's a very interesting piece. It's a satire. It's almost, and it is about the invention of a medicine that attempts to temper, its lower aggression. But of course, it doesn't work. It happens. The very opposite happens. And it's a comedy. It's a farce. It's a musical with a band.
Okay. So there's a bit of a delay. Broadcast. Yeah, there's a bit of a delay in broadcast. I'll just turn off my video, just to increase the broadband, so at least the audio comes through. But this thing happens.
It's not a problem.
Yeah, this thing happens all the time.
You just tell me. Did you hear my points?
I did.
Okay, good.
Yeah, this broadband thing. Actually, there's nothing we can do about that. But anyway.
Will I talk more? Let me talk for a while, and then you can choose what you want.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you just to expand a little bit on the so you guys were saying that you guys were that it was been operational, but fully operational. So we get that. Just a quick question before we get into the actual productions. This is something I always wanted to know about the Wits Theater. Is the Wits Theater only available to students at Wits, or is it open to theater practitioners who hasn't been to the university?
So the way it works actually is that the theatre and performance division have first right to get space in the theatres, and they should plan a year ahead. And when those slots are secured, the rest of the space is available for anybody else to come and perform. Okay. I suppose you could say subject to my eye to some degree, but I'm very open at the moment because I would like to animate the venue. So we're talking about having a battle of the bands. We're talking about jazz. We're talking about poetry and performance. We've got this visiting musical. And yes, we will take proposals from anybody, and we will do our best to make it possible, to make it financially viable. I mean, that's always the big issue.
Yeah.
We don't have money for production. We're a what is called classically a receiving house, actually. In other words, people come towards us, they lease the venue at a rate that I believe that is mutually agreeable, and then hopefully we do some business and then we share the dough. That's the game that I'm looking for.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks for explaining that to us. So yeah, man, just another thing. I said it's a very I've attended a bunch of, especially the poetry, with a lot of the students that was hosting stuff there. It was a lot of fun, very interactive stuff and very experimental stuff, which is always very cool, especially for the artsy-fartsy like myself and people who's tuning into this channel. Michael, Malcolm, as you guys were saying, you've got a few productions running. I know you've got one currently running. The Lab of Jazz, is it the Lab of Learning Jam Sessions? Yeah, from
That's correct.
Yeah, can you just explain to us a little bit about it, what's happening, and the dates and so forth?
Well, okay, so there's one tonight, and they're going to happen every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. with rare exception. And the program is part of the music division's teaching and learning. And what Carlo Mombelli has done as head of department is to put together ensembles of jazz with a senior professional and teacher, but the rest of the troupe or the group comes from the student body. And from the first one we did a week ago, I can tell you the standard is exceptional and the music is fantastic.
Yeah, you sold it. Yeah.
Well, no. I don't easily say these things, I assure you.
Yeah.
But my goodness. The skill. Oh my goodness, I love it. I love it. I should also say that I watched a piece called Mimem Tic, and it was a piece of dance theater happening at the piazza in front of the Wits Great Hall. And there were 50 students dancing with such passion, clarity, again, extraordinary work. So I've come into a place which is actually really bubbling with talent, and my job is just to make more space for it and make it possible for the public to come in easily. So I have a plan to open the theatre to Jorrison Street.
Tell us, because
I know
if you're not part of the, if you're not a student of Wits, it can seem a bit, may I say, intimidating. It looks like it is a university. But yeah, how does it?
It's almost like a fort. I mean, because of historical reasons, such as fees must fall and then COVID, the place is very, very cautious about security, and it's understandable. But my job is to learn from WAM, which is the Wits Arts Museum. You can walk off Jorrison Street with in through a door and go to the cafe and have a nice coffee and some sandwiches and so on. I'm getting a cafe going in the foyer of the Wits Theater and a coffee shop and a professionally run bar. And the task I have is to do exactly what Wham does, to open my theatre, our theatre. I love to say mine, but it's not mine. I wish it was.
Yeah.
Open
Yeah.
it, open it to the street, so that ordinary public who want to get a nice coffee or a sandwich or some lunch can come into the venue, and of course come into the venue and watch shows, including in the Chris Seabrook musical. So my version is that you walk into the venue, you go through some security, you can't like get to the rest of the campus unless you're a student or an academic, and then you come up and you can book for the Wits Theater or the amphitheater or the downstairs theater or the nunnery or the Chris Seabrook musical. So there are 5 places you could book for. And in the case of the Chris Seabrook, you leave via a door and you go across the University Station Road and you get into the foyer of this beautiful new space. That's my ambition. Now, will we get it? Depends on the appetite of the university to commit to opening to the public. But it's part of their long-term strategy to imagine a rejuvenated Braamfontein, where there are 20,000 students.
Yeah. No, Braamfontein is hectic. And also, yeah, I don't know. The city has got there's the art public there is also massive, or the art audience is also massive, and also one of the, one of the things I like to talk a lot about on this platform is how artists are making art accessible. Because we're living in an age where everything is on your cell phone, so access is such. If you have people who are so spoiled for access, you can get access to anything anytime. You just pick up your phone. You sort of expect it just to, if there's a venue, you can just walk in or walk out. But I understand, like like you're saying, with like fees must fall and COVID and so forth. Yeah, it makes sense that there's that the university, I guess, is cautious in and around that. But yeah, man, you made mention of a production called yeah, I'm gonna get my pronunciation right here. Mem is it meme or memtics, which is a physical theater.
Well, it's one of those rather fancy titles that artists invent. So I understand it as memem tics. It should be mimetic or mimetic, but the point memem tic. So it's about the tic, meaning that I suppose either yes tic or a tic you have when you've got a slight sort of psychological worry, and it's also about imitation. But I can tell you it was absolutely fabulous. And oh my goodness, the talent.
Yeah,
and I've been in I've been in this business a long time, since the 1970, 71. I wrote my first play.
Hey, that's older than me.
And then I spent 9 years. I spent 9 years at the Market Theatre as artistic director, and my job there was to curate beautiful, provocative work for the public. And I'm glad to say I doubled the numbers and the income. So I'm now trying to bring some of that expertise to Wits, and I've learned a huge amount. I learned a great amount from Sibongiseni Mkhize, who was the current CEO of the State Theatre. There was a wonderful team at the Market when I arrived there, and in spite of the fact that my prime task was to do the curating of arts and give some money to artists to write whatever, actually I became passionately interested in the arts administration issues and the challenges. So I'm kind of applying all of those things in this lovely new job I have.
Now that you mentioned that, I actually want to quiz you about that, about some of the, because I know and talking on this platform that post-COVID, like everything has changed. People's movements have changed, and now also there's this monkeypox thing that they're also throwing around in the media, and I've noticed people actually wearing more masks now than like a few weeks or a few months ago. So I know there's a lot of stuff, but actually, let me get into that, because there's also another production I want to talk about. So I think if we don't talk about it now, we might get lost in translation. Just tell us about some of the challenges and some of the wins and some of the losses in this post-COVID world, as people's as a theater audience increase, as a decrease. Have you noticed any other, I guess, changes and so forth?
Well, I have a theory that says audiences will go to something if it's compelling and they know about it. And if that says to them, you have to see this, you have to see this, So the Market Theatre is a beautiful example, under the new management of artistic management of Greg Homan. He's got this idea that you never have a dark night, and that's an idea I share with him. And audiences are flocking to the Market Theatre for things like The Promise, for things like The Cry of Winnie Mandela, and so on. And actually, J. Bob's piece called, I'm sorry, I can't remember right now, but I went to watch it. I loved it. It was full. The jazz that visited, the junior jazz that visited from New York, from the Carnegie Center, was fantastic and packed. So, and we're not talking about we're talking about old audiences, middle class, middle-aged and white, and young, dynamic, new generation, young people, black, female, who love the theater and will go to it. Now, I can say this. One of my great influences is Grotowski. And Grotowski believed, and Peter Brook writes about this, that you take a person and they walk across the stage, an empty stage, and you have a piece of theater. And so the contest that theater is having with what we'll call the digital arts just means that both sides of that conversation have to reinvent themselves. We have it in history. When photography emerged, the realist painters thought they could no longer work.
Yeah.
All that happened actually is an open space for fantastic art, expressionist art, surrealist art, the Dadaist movement. And that the idea was that artists who painted no longer had to commit to realism. So I think the same thing with us. Live theater is very popular if you get it right, because there's nothing like a live performer in front of your eyes. But to get it right, it's not that simple.
So when you say get
Your
it right,
podcast is making me talk slowly, because I'm feeling like I have to sort of make sure it's all caught. So forgive me if I sound a bit odd.
It's fine. Yeah, no.
Okay. So how do we make work that's compelling? How do we make work that's compelling? Well,
yeah.
I often misquote Peter Brook, and he says that some plays tumble towards us and they fight the image, the sound, the poetry, the music, the language, the gesture. They all fight to get towards the audience, and they really tumble in a great hurry of passion. And other plays have long moments of languor when nothing happens, and the mind and the stomach rolls and the mind turns to thoughts of dinner.
Very, very, very poetic.
So the answer is, we have exactly, very poetic, but so telling. If we don't make our work compelling and tumbling and wild and crazy and contradictory and full of passionate commitment to telling the story of our times, which are extremely interesting, let's be honest. We
Absolutely.
live in very, we have the Chinese curse. But what with the current politics itself is fascinating. And the current generation of, I suppose, new thinkers, that we've got space for a whole range of new kinds of work.
That's interesting because when you say, yeah, and I agree. I love the metaphor with the how with this photorealism came in with the Dadaism and Surrealism and so forth. Yeah, no, it's I love that example because this is a art platform, so it's always cool to use art references in the art platform. Anyway, the other
Sorry, I want to just correct that quote slightly because it's even more interesting. It goes,
okay.
The mind goes to sleep. I'll start again. And then the mind goes to sleep and the stomach turns to thoughts of dinner.
Mind goes to sleep and the stomach to thoughts of dinner.
Yeah. That's what happens when you don't have.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Interesting. That that's really making my mind go in another direction. But just to pull it back here to ask,
Not the thoughts of dinner.
That's making me think I'm hungry. I need a snack.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
hungry. I'm going to go and find somewhere to eat.
yeah, some
I
coffee would
always
be.
delay my breakfast.
Oh, anyway, yeah. Well, I ate my breakfast actually quite. I've got a real schedule in the morning. So, I have my oats, I have my breakfast, and I have water, and then I get into my day, into the studio. Um, anyway. Malcolm, I want to ask you something about technology. Given that that everything these days is run of this device, people interact, people fall in love, people fall out of love, and so forth and so forth. Do you think there's pressure among in the theater community to, I guess, digitize? I think that's the wrong word, but to broadcast online and to have this whole movement from whatever you're doing on a theater to try to put it on a phone or a device. In your experience, do you think that's a challenge that the theater has in 2024?
I have strong thoughts. The first thought is if you are the national theatre in Britain and have, I don't know, 20 cameras and everybody mic'd to perfection and a very, very good work plan, you can film those plays in such a way that I love to watch them. And you can film operas in the same way. And actually, there's a great privilege in getting close to the faces. If you cannot conquer it at that level, don't try. And we have big challenges in Southern Africa around technologies and what's here and what can't be used. So again, unless you can conquer it properly and make it crisp and clear and beautiful, my version is don't try. Now, maybe you went to watch Kentridge's The Head and the Load, or one of his talks with the famous editor. He has got probably the most expensive video projector in the country. And that means that it's beautifully, beautifully crisp. We don't have that kind of technology. And even at the market, I've seen plays with very poor projections. So I am, again, I can say I'm a Grotowskiite. I like to have minimum technologies. Really, if you follow Grotowski, it was Albert. It's just was Albert. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't have bands and song and musicals. And if we want to do projections, we have to get them right. That's all I'm willing to say.
Yeah, there's a right way and a wrong way. Yeah, I get you.
Well, and then we could say, well, we're in Southern Africa, so we have our own challenges. Sure, but then find our own ways,
Yeah. Interesting. Just a last question to follow up on that. Do you see that app changing dramatically in the next, let's say, three years or so? Are there theater practitioners who's already applying or experimenting, should I say, with that?
Oh, look, many productions now have projections. And I'm even working on a play now that with some of my students from AFTA. And there's a figure there that wants to, appear on a screen. So if it can happen, great. There was a play at the market about schooling, and they had fantastic use of projection on 2 walls in a small theater. And actually, they organized to talk back to the character on the wall. So if you can master the discipline, sure, and it's exciting sometimes. And but master the discipline. That's all I can say. And to answer your other question, the digital arts is so rapidly, well, let's call it the digital world, is so rapidly increasing its quality that eventually, we already know you can take photographs of high quality with a cell phone, and we will get projectors that are better and better and better. And so the idea of multimedia can be really exciting. There's no doubt. Immersion into arts like they're doing in Europe now, where you go into a factory space and it's all projections of Van Gogh or something. And it's amazing. And it really is very, very challenging. But get our technology right. Over and over, I have to say. Use your proper and clear eye to see what you're doing.
Super interesting. Thank you for that. That was very, very interesting. Super, super interesting. Yeah, Malcolm, let's actually finish up with the last production called Antidote, the musical that's running from the 3rd of September, which is next week, I think. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, Simeme Zulu Kulu, otherwise known to me as Cody, has created this musical and it promises to be like a real carnival. I mean, the imaging itself they're all dressed up as if they were in a carnival somewhere, number one. Number two, it's about a medicine that someone tries to create to reduce violence in prisons. And there are court cases that happen. But the other point is it has the very opposite effect. So it's a comedy, it's a satire, it's a farce. And there's a band, 5-piece band, and beautiful, beautiful singing. Some of the people in the troupe are opera singers trained. So it promises to be a very exciting moment for our theatre.
Fantastic, man, and I see that's in about a week or so's time. So, just to sort of wrap it up there, can you just explain to us again, like if there's anybody interested in buying tickets, and finding out more about these productions, where do they go and who do they ask and so forth?
Well, for the case of the Antidote, the visiting company is running their own box office with Quicket, and people can buy at Quicket, and there's no question there will be lots of tickets at the door for students and for friends of the theatre and for anybody else for that matter. So just make your way. In the nighttime, you can park in Solomon Matlangu, as we always used to, cross the bridge, you get to the venue. And if you're on campus, just find your way.
Yeah, for sure, man. And just I guess in closing, these are the 1, 2, 3, or 4 events. Is there anything else that you guys are looking for, are putting together or planning? Given that we're now moving into spring.
Well, we've got a drama for we've got a drama for life conference in October. Early part of October, and there is a festival of performance that will happen on the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday before the festival. Details to follow. I'm looking forward to that. A lot of really lovely people bring lovely pieces to this festival. Again, it's for free or very small prices, and it's all about celebrating all the diverse program of work that's engaged in questions of health, the new world, how we run our worlds, and so on. And then we've got this visiting choreographer from Brazil, and in the 21st of September there will be a performance that she does, and some students will be working on a project with her. Again, details to follow, and Bridget will help you find all the data.
Yes, I will. And to my listeners, I'll be putting up the links to all of those things in the description there below, so you guys can look for it, can look at that. And I'll be promoting. I mean, what I normally do is I publish the episode 1 week, and then I chop it up into shorts, which I do the following week. So I promote it basically for 7 days each episode for 7 days, and then all the information is on the channel. And to my listeners, yeah, the more you guys engage with the content, that's how YouTube and all these platforms pick it up, and you get to see more of it. So if there's anybody that's listening, any comments, thoughts, and so forth, I would appreciate any of that. Malcolm, my brother, thank you very much for coming through. Very concise. It was super interesting about the digitizing and working with tech, because that's something I'm very passionate about. And I talk every week on this platform. I'm super interested to know how artists are adapting, because that is our new reality. And there's also something called AI, which is also another game changer. But I guess we'll have to talk about that on another episode, because it is so big, and it gets artists really, I guess, hyped up, but not always in a good way. And these things are changing our industry, and I think it's really important that we engage in it. So if there's anybody that's watching this and you agree or disagree or want to know more, please just, that's what the comments are there for. Malcolm, thank you very much, my brother. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, it's been a privilege and a pleasure to be talking with you. And we can talk again next year when things are even more settled. I'm determined to get work every week.
No, man, that is
So
great,
thank you.
and that's very good to know, because I'll be in touch regard that, because one of the things that I'll just add this, like, in closing, is also that we also basically I'm an artist myself, but I'm really invested into technology, so I'm collaborating with a lot of developers or well, I just say programmers, but they actually call developers, so they write code and stuff like that. Because I'm really invested in finding new audiences for art, whether it be theater, music, fine art, books, whatever. Because there's just such a huge untapped audience, not just in Southern Africa, but in Africa, which I'm really passionate, and I'm really interested in exploring different processes and ways of engaging these audiences, mostly in this digital landscape, but also seeing how people are adapting to a traditional form of theater or art exhibitions.
Yeah, can I say that in the early 2000s, can I quickly tell you something interesting? In the early 2000s, I was working as the Johannesburg director for NYU. They used to send out students every year for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I hosted them. And I had the great privilege of going back to New York to visit all their programs. And the one that I want to share with you, I can't exactly remember the name. It's something like TPI or something, but there was a woman called Red Burns. Look her up. She's passed, but look her up, because she ran this program of the most beautiful relationship between engineers, technologists, programming, and art events, all in one. The senior students had to learn all of those skills. So, for example, you'd walk up to an empty screen, and then all these little pieces of wood with a motor behind, tiny, would go change, and there was your face. So that kind of art, and using technologies and digital, it's already been surpassed by the contemporary developments, but we certainly can learn from it. Look it up. Red Burns. Burns.
I made a note there. I will do that.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a slightly old-fashioned name, but hey. So once again, a privilege to be here. Lovely to meet you, Douglas. Keep well.
Thank you very much, Malcolm.
Bye.
Yeah, man. Thank you. We'll be in touch. All right, man. Cheers, my brother. Bye.
Bye-bye.